Mechanical keyboards seem to be everywhere these days, so much so that it's tough for any one brand to stand out. One way to catch attention is to use materials that other keyboards don't use. In this case, wood. That's far from all this keyboard does. It has great connectivity, tons of options, and a unique look, even when it's unplugged. Let's talk about that name real quick. If you look on the Kickstarter and judging by where they put the hyphen, it almost looks like you're supposed to say Woody, but that's really weird, so I'm not going to do that. For the rest of the review, I'm going to be calling it the Woody. Our review unit arrived in a basic looking box, and as is usually the case with keyboards, there wasn't much inside. Obviously, you get the keyboard, but the included accessories were few and far between. You get the USB cable, which uses a C-type connector on one end and the standard full-size connector on the other. In addition to this, the box contains a keycap puller and a switch puller. As for the keyboard itself, I can't really tell if the wood is a facade or if it's chambered, but either way, this was much lighter than I expected. That could be due to the aluminum alloy used in the rest of the construction. Now, the Woody is available in two finishes, cherry and walnut. For our review, we're looking at the cherry, which is the lighter of the two finishes. Now, every aspect of this keyboard feels solid, from the keycaps to the switches, both of which we'll touch on a little bit later. As for the keyboard itself, there's never a feeling of flexing underneath the pressure of your key presses, which is something I've noticed in other keyboards before. You don't need to install drivers to use this keyboard, which is good as that applies to basically any keyboard made in the last decade or so. If that was the case here, it would be a little strange. The included software is akin to what you'd find with any gaming keyboard. Most of the focus of the software is on controlling the various aspects of the keyboard's lighting. This ranges from the usual lighting to adjusting it on the fly by assigning functions to hotkeys. The software offers more control than many users will ever need, but it's nice to have this kind of functionality in case you do need it. The RGB LED backlighting on the Woody is capable of displaying 16.8 million colors. This video is far from doing it justice. To truly appreciate it, you really need to see this keyboard in action. We're not just talking about static colors here either. You can set the keyboard to pulsate and breathe in various colors or patterns. That's just what's built in too, as theoretically you could program the lighting to do a whole lot more. When you order this keyboard, you get your choice of switches. In a lot of cases, that would be cherry. In this case, they went with Gateron or Gateron, but they're still pretty good. If you've ever bought a mechanical keyboard that uses cherry switches, you'll find functional color equivalents here. The blue switches are the most tactile, while the red are smooth and require very little force to activate. The brown switch is somewhere in the middle with a smooth tactile click that is less pronounced than the blue switches. Our review unit came with the brown switch, and that's probably the best choice for most people. If you're just gaming all the time, you might want to go for the red, while if you're only typing, you might prefer the blue, but the brown is a nice kind of in-between. Personally, I have the most experience using blue switches, and I've never really been a fan of red switches. With the brown switches, I was able to adapt to typing on the Woody within a matter of minutes. Keyboard feel can easily throw me off if something doesn't feel right, but fortunately, that was far from the case here. If there is one point against the feel of the Woody, it's that the F and J keys lack the home row markers found on most keyboards. That said, the feel of these keycaps is so nice that I could see why designers wouldn't want to mar them with a little plastic nub. Looking at this keyboard, you may notice a few missing keys. Actually, depending on what you're used to, you might notice a lot of missing keys. This keyboard does away with not just the number pad, but also the dedicated function keys. People haven't used the F keys as much as they used to in many years, but they've kind of morphed into multimedia keys over time. You won't find those here either. That still wouldn't be much of a problem for many people, but the Woody goes further still. For example, the tilde key is entirely missing. For gamers, this won't be a problem, but if you're a programmer or system administrator, that missing key could be a big deal. The Woody addresses this problem via extensive use of the single function key. This doesn't just turn the number keys into proper function keys. Hit function plus escape and you get your tilde key back. This key also adds multimedia key support, backlighting control, and more. It even controls the Bluetooth functionality. The Woody seems like a keyboard that is meant to plug directly into your computer, so that was the first way we tested it. Response time is ultra low, but even over Bluetooth, the response time is advertised as 4 milliseconds. Now, N-key rollover is something a lot of manufacturers advertise despite not actually seeming to know what it does. But in this case, this actually does support N-key rollover, and quite well. In testing the Woody, I loaded up a few different methods of testing rollover, and my physical ability to hit keys maxed out before I ever hit any sort of limit on the keyboard itself. This is going to be a major plus for gamers, but also for pretty much anyone else. Using the Woody keyboard in Bluetooth mode is fairly simple. It supports up to 3 separate connections mapped to Z, X, and C on the keyboard. Basically, just hold the function key plus the button you wish to assign to a Bluetooth connection, and the keyboard enters pairing mode. I tested the Woody with Mac and Windows computers in wired mode and in Bluetooth, and I also used iOS in Bluetooth mode. I never ran into any sort of trouble. The only problem I encountered at all was that plugging the keyboard into a computer doesn't automatically disable the Bluetooth. In that case, all I had to do was hit function plus space to turn Bluetooth off, and the keyboard worked just fine. If there's something the Woody keyboard doesn't do out of the box, chances are pretty good that you'll be able to find a way to make it happen, and that goes for pretty much any aspect of the keyboard. As with any mechanical keyboard, you can replace the keycaps with any you happen to prefer. You can also replace the switches, so if you order the keyboard with brown switches and decide you'd prefer blues, you can swap them in. You could even, for example, swap in some switch types on the arrow keys while you use others on the letter keys. Even better, they're hot swappable, so you can try this all out while the keyboard's plugged in. You may not ever need to, but it's nice that you can. If you're thinking about buying this keyboard, you probably should. It does everything it says it's going to do, and a little bit more. There's one thing to keep in mind though, buy the version with the battery. Even if you're positive the Woody will never leave your desk, the extra options you get with the battery are absolutely worth the extra money. Sick of listening to me talk? Yeah, me too. If you'd rather read this whole thing, you can find it over at the Make Use Of website. While you're over there, you can enter a giveaway to win this very keyboard. In fact, if you'd rather skip the article, you can just go to makeuseof.com/giveaways. When you get to the part about a video bonus question, enter Wood is good, all one word. Thanks to Woody for supplying the keyboard to review, and thanks to you for watching.